Hey everybody, this is Panda, and you are listening to our second episode of Batting Practice with Bragan and Panda. This is our second episode of Sports Talk. Bragan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, ready to jump into it.
So tonight we are just going to jump in and just have a lengthy conversation on a matchup in the NBA that intrigues us both, and that actually took place last night. And it is the Boston Celtics versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this is one that we both have a pretty strong opinion about, so we're pretty excited for this, and we're just going to jump right into it. So for those of you who didn't hear or know or kind of been out of the loop, just a little bit of background. Last night, the Cleveland Cavaliers faced the Boston Celtics. Boston won 103-99. And then this morning, there were some reports and a lot of analysts really looked at this game and were trying to go back and forth on it. And so without giving too much away on who said what, that's sort of going to be our focus tonight as to this matchup, who has the upper hand, why that is, and which team we think ultimately will come out of the East. So with that, Bragan, I will let you have the floor first, and then I will come and clean up and fix any mess that you leave behind.
Well, it's no secret that any LeBron-led team is going to be the favorite to win the East every single year, because obviously he's staying in the East, and that's never going to change. Putting all that aside, though, I think the Celtics definitely have a legitimate shot to contend this year and take out the Cavs in a 7-game series. They dropped the first 2 games of the season series, the Celtics did. And last night they bounced back, like you said, beat the Cavs by 4 at home. And I think it was definitely a promising win. I'm really looking forward to the April 5th matchup where they're going to be playing at Boston again. That'll definitely give us a more in-depth analysis as to if the Celtics really are for real. And I'm really looking forward to that.
So with that, I think some interesting comments came out. Ones that kind of confused me. Yeah, I see Boston. I mean, I guess they're definitely a contender and they're definitely there, but there's still a large part of me that believes that Boston still is a year or two away before, at least probably a year away from really truly being a legitimate threat to Cleveland. Right now I just don't see them really contending in a 7-game series where you see the same team over and over again every single night, especially with the core that Cleveland has being to the finals the last 2 years. So I still think they're a year away. I still think their rostering needs some depth, and ultimately they don't have the depth to keep up with Cleveland. Cleveland can just roll the next guy off the bench and it's okay, versus where Boston, you begin to get in their bench and it gets a little shaky. So for me, it really doesn't seem that close. And honestly, just kind of listening to Stephen A. Smith this morning and seeing some of his comments, I think there's just a general overreaction. Yay, the Celtics beat the Cavs by 4. Suddenly now they can take them in a 7-game series. That doesn't really make any sense. I mean, look at Cleveland and Golden State playing each other the last couple seasons, all the hype surrounding those games, and Cleveland's gotten blown out some, Golden State's gotten blown out some, but when you get to the playoffs, what do those games actually mean? Absolutely nothing. It just has no bearing whatsoever.
Well, you can't say that. No, you can't say they mean absolutely nothing. You can't. I mean, let's say the Cavs went ahead and swept the Celtics. That doesn't mean that it's going to happen again. You can't say that they mean nothing. It's definitely you get a very in-depth look at the matchups, and that's a big thing. You get to look at the matchups. You get to see how they're feeling each other out in the regular season. You can't say that it means absolutely nothing, because it definitely does.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, a 7-game series is just so much different than playing each other 4 times sporadically throughout the year. In the grand scheme of things, it almost means nothing. There's a 5% okay, you're feeling each other out, but a 7-game series is so totally, completely different that whatever happened during the regular season, you can almost forget that because it's like new time of the year, new, coaching schemes, new patterns. Everything changes game to game. You're, game planning for the same team over and over and over again. And it's a whole different dynamic. And I don't think that Boston could take Cleveland specifically game planning with the depth that they have on how to beat Boston if they were just sitting there focusing on them for 2 weeks. I don't think it would happen.
Well, when you come playoff time, it's all about preparation, who's most strategically ready. You can look at the player matchups just by themselves all you want, but that's not going to change the fact that it's going to come down to who is most prepared. And that's what it comes down to in the playoffs and the big games in any major sport. That doesn't change with the NBA.
Yeah, it doesn't change. It doesn't change. But at the same time, baseball, you're playing a 3-game series. You can, you're going to have a game plan for those 3 games. You're going to see the same team, maybe not the same starting pitcher, but you're going to see the same team, same batters, same bullpen, that sort of thing. There's a little bit of a difference. NFL, you're just playing 1 game. You have a whole week to game plan for that. NBA is a little bit different in some of these major sports in the way that you're playing in Washington one night and then you're playing in New York the next. And it's like, there's so much going on that, I'm sure there's in some points a little bit of lack of preparation during the regular season where you're not going to see that during the playoffs when it's Boston tonight and it's Boston tomorrow. It's the same thing. So I definitely think that the NBA definitely has the biggest difference between postseason and regular season as far as preparation.
So bottom line, are you just cut to the chase here? Are you trying to tell me that there's no chance that the Celtics can win in a 7-game series?
No, I give them 6, Cleveland in 6. Boston might take 1 or 2 at home. But no. This year,
you don't think there's even an inkling of a shot of that happening?
Not even an inkling.
You think any team in the East can take out the Cavs?
No, not this year.
And that's you promise you're not being a homer. You promise.
No, I really don't. The couple teams that interest me: Boston, Washington, and Toronto. Washington scares me a little bit because of their pace of play. They play really fast, create a lot of turnovers. LeBron scares me a little bit with that. Kyrie a little bit with that for the Cavs. But ultimately, I don't think they have. I don't think they could really take the Cavs in a 7-game series because Cleveland would game plan against that. But not being a homer, I think Boston is a year away from being scary. Next year, they're going to be scary. But I think they're still about a year away before they really have the depth and the talent to truly match up and take the Cavs. When the Cavs get J.R. Smith back, when the Cavs have Kevin Love back in whatever capacity he's back in, now suddenly you're rolling Kyle Korver off the bench. You're rolling Darren Williams. You've got Amon Shumpert, Andrew Bogut, Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson. I mean, it's just player after player that has the experience, that has been to the playoffs, that's gone deep, that's been in the pressure situations before. This isn't going to phase them. This is their 3rd year going through this. Boston doesn't have that. So I really don't see Boston actually coming away and being a threat. 6 games maybe, but I don't even think they push Cleveland to 7.
Would you disagree there's going to be a lot of close games involved in the supposed 6-game series you're claiming it's going to be?
Yeah, no, okay. So, yeah, let me preface that. 6-game series, games are going to be close, but I don't think it's going to be in question. Look at Cavs versus Pistons last year. Cavs won the series 4-0, swept the first round, moved on. Yippee. But if you go back and actually look at some of those scores, they were really close. The first, I remember several games, and I'm looking it up here really quick, but I remember several games where, the Cavs came away 199. So, it's one of those things where the games will be close, but there's going to be sort of this kind of overall feel that Cleveland is in control of this series. It's just a matter of when.
In close games, I just like the Celtics. When it comes to the close games, they're just hard to match, especially Thomas. He's just a beast in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but
there's no containing him.
He doesn't play
There's no
D.
containing him. It's the NBA. Who plays D?
You could say the same about Kyrie Irving. I mean, how are you going to stop him going to the hole? How are you going to stop him pulling up?
Name someone who is more consistent in the fourth quarter than Isaiah Thomas.
There isn't. But
that's what I'm trying to get at.
If you're going to have Kyle or Al Horford showing up shooting 3 for 9, you're not going to win in the postseason.
If it's going to come down to close games, which it's going to, almost all of those games in the postseason against the Cavs are going to be close. That's why I'm looking at a team like the Celtics, the team that'll show up in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I just think with LeBron LeBron playoffs is a completely different player than LeBron regular season. LeBron playoffs, he shoots that shot most likely. Playoffs, we don't have Darren Williams on the floor. We've got you spread with Korver, Smith, Love, LeBron,
Smith and Love didn't play. Smith and Love didn't play. Get over that.
I understand, but I'm saying
get over that.
Playoffs, it's a completely different situation. This is what I'm talking about. It's totally different than regular season. So it's one or the other. Fourth quarter.
I don't think Isaiah Thomas is going to change in the playoffs. Is the thing.
The
guy's an animal.
The thing is, LeBron does change. He's a completely different player in the playoffs. He's so much better in the playoffs versus the regular season because he understands the regular season doesn't matter. Just make the playoffs, and then we'll take care of business.
I love that mentality.
It is what it is,
Is it?
Yeah.
Why is it that?
Why is it what?
Why does the regular season not matter? Are you saying it just doesn't matter to LeBron?
What I'm saying is
regular season. Does the NBA regular season matter to anybody?
Yeah, it matters. But for LeBron and the Cavs or the Warriors, the regular season is a chance to dust up and get ready for the playoffs. That's what it is. It's a watered down 82 game schedule where you're dusting up and getting ready for the playoffs. Doesn't matter what you're doing in January. Doesn't matter what you're doing in February. You want to be hot and ready to go in April. That's the fact of the matter.
I don't like that.
No, and that's a problem with the NBA overall, not just.
How would you look to keep it more entertaining? Because honestly, who watches all 82 of their team's games? Exactly. It's just like baseball. Nobody watches all 162 of their games. You only pay attention in the postseason. I mean, at least in the NBA, your team is still kind of in it midway through the season. But when it comes to the MLB, though,
yeah,
you get halfway through the season, you could be completely done.
Absolutely,
and it's just boring.
Absolutely.
But how can we change it?
Honestly, I would, and they'll never do this, but I'd cut 10, 12 games out of the schedule, get rid of the back-to-backs, put fewer games on nights. Especially when you get in this time where you're in between NFL, you're in between NCAA taking off in March, you're sort of in that spot. Give yourself a good marketing opportunity, less games on each night, more national TV games to make it more interesting. But honestly, you can't. Your playoffs are 2 months long. I feel like a lot of it is
the gameplay too.
Yeah, your playoffs are 2 months long. I mean, what other sport has playoffs that stretch over 2 months? Like, think about that. You could potentially play.
Like about the. That's what I like about the MLB though, is that you don't have the 7-game series until you reach, a certain point.
Right.
In the NBA, everybody's playing 7-game series, which is nice in its own way, but it's not going to hold interest for
No.
very long.
If you played every 7-game series, you'd be playing 28 more games. And now, granted, that doesn't happen, but each team is, if you make the finals and play in the finals, you're probably looking at playing somewhere between 20 and 24 games, most likely.
So what's the point of having an 82-game season?
Exactly.
You're going to be playing.
It
I mean, you
doesn't
could be
make any
playing
sense.
up to 100 games.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Right. And when you start to look at it that way, LeBron going to 6 straight finals is kind of nuts. I mean, you play 6
It's getting
months.
kind of old.
Yeah, it gets old. But
I mean, I know you're a Cleveland fan, so you enjoy watching it, but for everyone else, it's getting boring. And you're looking at teams like Golden State, and it could happen with them too. We could just keep looking at Golden State
over and over
Cavs
again
every year, and it's going to lose so much interest over time.
Yeah. See,
because
the difference with Golden
NBA
State is Golden State is derailing themselves to build this team. They're going to become much like Miami was with LeBron. You lost Bogut because you couldn't afford him. You lose Spates. You lose, some of these guys, Barbosa. And now when Curry has to get paid and Durant has to get paid next offseason, what are you going to do with Iguodala? What are you going to do with Livingston? All these guys. I don't know how much longer Golden State is really going to be around.
Well, guys like that are not Durant or Curry, but Iguodala, Livingston are kind of expendable.
But you're going to have no bench. Who are you going to be trotting out there?
Well, there's going to be new players coming in.
Who? You're going to pick up a first-round pick with your 30th pick overall?
You're losing those guys, which means other teams are losing guys too. There's always guys that can be signed in the offseason that can fill in.
They're not going to have cap to sign.
They're not going to
re-sign
re-sign both Curry and Durant, though.
So which
is fine.
Who's going away? Durant?
Durant. Yes. You don't get rid of Curry.
So where's Durant end up? And then how does he repair his reputation?
Not Oklahoma City.
How does he repair his reputation? Could you imagine?
He doesn't.
That?
He doesn't repair his reputation. It's too late to go back now. Why would you even? He might as well accept the fact that he's going to be the bad guy in the NBA now and embrace that.
So where would he go?
I could see him going back home and playing for Washington. Last offseason, who else was he talking with? Celtics. The Clippers were involved.
Yeah, I think Clippers are out.
I think the Spurs were even in talks with him at one point. I just can't see Popovich doing that. He'll probably just end up going to another bigger market team. That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
The Lakers are always going to be looking to talk to him because they talk to everybody.
Yeah, maybe he'll end up in LA.
He'll just go to another big market team.
Yeah.
At a smaller, or not smaller, at a shorter contract and lengthwise, and just keep kind of bouncing around till he wins a ring. Maybe. I could see him doing that for sure.
Maybe.
But going back to the full NBA regular season, I felt like that 2011-2012 season when it was shortened to 66 games from the lockout was one of the most exciting years, personally.
Yeah. Well, the only thing you have to worry about with that is, I think because of the lockout, the schedule got condensed too, and so you saw a lot of 3 games and 3 nights or whatever. So I'd like to see them play less games, but not so close together.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you spread them out a little bit, you're going to get more interest because it's not like, the Cavs are on almost every night. I can always watch tomorrow or whatever. And sure. You can highlight the main matchups a little bit better. I don't know. Yeah. That's just my feeling on it.
Well, that's the thing when you're looking at, obviously it's much different, but college basketball, the games are 3-4 days apart, and you look down the road and
right.
Schedule accordingly to watching or traveling to a certain game.
Right. Yeah. And it's a much shorter season. I mean, they're done by March, right? So
yeah,
it's a much shorter season. And I think that holds the interest a little bit better. I think NBA, honestly, I don't start watching until Christmas. And I think that's kind of the consensus. Christmas Day is sort of like the opening day for a lot of people. You watch those marquee matchups. Maybe you've watched 1 or 2 games until then, but, you don't really start watching. And then, I couldn't imagine. I mean, like, I just think back to when LeBron left and we had 4 years, in Cleveland of crap basketball. Even with Irving, I mean, it was like there was hardly any interest. So, 6 months is a long time, especially if you're watching a team that has literally no shot at making anything. We're talking, how could you be a Philadelphia 76ers fan? My goodness.
Because you get high draft picks every year.
Yeah, but they use them on the same freaking type of player every single time. Oh, I got a good idea. Let's draft
I don't think any of their guys have finished a full season since they started on that big slump, have they?
Yeah.
They haven't had any one of their draft picks finish a full year, have they?
No, not to this point.
I thought I saw that.
Let's draft a center with a foot problem or a knee problem. He'll do fine. Don't worry about it. It's okay. We already have 2 of those, but 1 more can't hurt.
Don't worry. They got a small forward last year.
Oh, good.
And he's out for the season.
Yeah, he's out for the year. No need to rush him back.
No.
It's not like...
Embiid's gone now, too, isn't he?
Yeah. For what? Pennies on the dollar? I mean, you got Bogut back and you waived him. Okay, great. You just essentially traded Andrew Bogut for a 3rd round pick or 3rd overall pick or something, a 2nd overall pick or something like that. That was smart.
Yeah. Personally, as someone living in the Kansas City area, we don't have an NBA team here. So I don't really start paying full attention to NBA basketball until after the Super Bowl. Not like the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl ever, but I just don't. It doesn't even come up for me to even feel like watching NBA until my main priority is out of the way, which is the Chiefs, and NFL football altogether.
Right.
And there's so many complaints about the NFL, but at least they keep things interesting.
Yeah.
It's definitely a much better setup.
Absolutely.
So playoffs, regular season, marketing, it's a better run altogether.
Yeah.
That's what really catches the eyes of a lot of fans.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you put an NBA team in Kansas City, then we can start talking some more, but
you can have the Philadelphia
until
76ers.
Then I'm gonna I'd rather have an expansion team. Thank you.
You want the Brooklyn Nets?
That is much worse than an expansion team.
Kansas City Nets. Here you go. They don't have a 1st round pick until 2025.
Give us the Kings back. We'll take the Kansas City Kings again.
Kansas City Kings. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Oh my gosh. Well, I can't remember if they did it this year, but I remember there was talk and there were some articles out there where the NBA was seriously looking at shortening the preseason, and then in effect cutting like a week or 2 off of the total season time. And I know it wouldn't make a huge difference, but I can't remember if that was actually implemented this year or if they were just looking at it. Do you remember?
Like I said, I don't pay a whole lot of attention till January, but
yeah, well, I'd have to.
I don't remember that actually coming into effect.
I think it was something they just were just messing with, kicking around a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
But again, it's almost like they're in this battle between trying to keep the fans and the owners wanting the money. And that's where the battle comes in. The owners want all 82 games because that's the way they make the most money. Because they get more TV revenue, they get more people into their stadiums. All this stuff just kind of comes together. They make more money. Well, the players may want a shorter season because it, less wear and tear on the body. But then the owners might come back and say, well, then we're not paying you as much money. And that's where, sadly, it always comes back to how much money and who's getting paid the money. And that's what the NBA is going to gonna decide this stuff on us. It's a business. But I agree, it's bad for the business of basketball to have nobody paying attention until here it is, the month of March or the month of February. It's bad for the business of basketball to have an Eastern Conference that is essentially non-existent. I mean, you've got 4 teams this year who you could say are at least intriguing in the Eastern Conference. Nobody else is. I mean,
Yeah, teams get so stacked up, and you already know it's gonna probably be LeBron against the Warriors.
and
I mean,
but
we knew that going into the season. That was very likely going to be the matchup.
and at least the West is a little bit more intriguing now with Durrant hurt.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Now you can. I mean, if we look at the West, okay, I've watched the San Antonio Spurs a couple times. Do they really intrigue you as a contender? Like they
sure.
look okay.
Popovich's teams will always be in contention.
Maybe they just
mean,
don't
even
have
with
the
that-
wow factor or something.
No,
But I just
they
watch
never
them and
do.
they just look like
They
blah.
never do.
It's like how is this team 46-13? They just look
They're not an exciting team to watch. They never have been. They're not an exciting team to watch. They're just very fundamental, and they get it done. That's what all of Popovich's teams are like.
Yeah,
I mean,
I guess.
they're boring as hell to watch.
Oh my god!
Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's hard to watch, but if I'm looking to teach some kids how to play basketball the right way, and I'm looking NBA, that's the team I'm looking at is the Spurs. Popovich does it the right way. He's a very fundamental guy, and I respect the hell out of him. But when it comes to the entertainment factor, it's just nearly unbearable, which is kind of sad when you think about it.
Yeah.
Nobody likes watching real basketball anymore. I mean, we're all victim of this at this point.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah. Well,
we don't care about that. It's all about just the exciting big plays.
Right.
That's probably why nobody plays defense anymore, because they know that no one's going to pay attention when they get a nice defensive stop or make them force up a bad shot, when if they just go and run to the end of the court and throw one down, they're going to get on SportsCenter and everyone's going to love them.
Right. The other problem is the flopping. I hate the flopping. It's ridiculous. Like, I know they're handing out these petty $5,000 or $25,000 fine, whatever it is. It's a slap on the wrist. It's terrible. It'd be like in baseball, getting, it's the equivalent of having the ball hit the end of the bat and you pretending that, it hit your arm and you're in so much pain, and then you get, a free base.
I feel like it started out as just a joke.
Yeah.
I feel like it was just players just kind of, because if you look back, obviously this is a fairly new thing that's going on. But when you look back, it's just kind of guys messing around and flopping, laughing, ref laughing, they get up and move on. But now it's turned into a real crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I don't know what the rule is or how they're enforcing it or how they judge a flop. Then again, how do you judge a lot of things when it comes to officiating? It should just be an automatic ejection, because I'm tired of seeing it.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's awful. It's awful. Nobody wants to watch a bunch of guys barely tap each other, not even hit each other, and fall into the ground looking for a call. And then when they actually get called for the flop, they're just bitching about it and go crying to the reporters about it and making a big deal. And it's turning into a pussified sport.
Yeah. One of my favorite little guys to watch flop is Marcus Smart. He's got some incredible ones.
Oh yeah.
He's him and the one guy who started it, maybe, or that I remember watching and seeing him do it all the time, Anderson Varejao. When he played in Cleveland, this might have been like 10-12 years ago, I just remember he would just flop all the time. And you know why it was so obvious? It was because of his hair. You could just tell, like, just everything about him was just goofy. And that's where I remember it starting for me in my mind. And maybe it started earlier, but like that's the one player like I pick out in my mind and I'm like, yep, I remember him doing this all the time. And now it just seems to be like a just full blown, everybody's doing it. It's like there's nothing good for it in the game. They got to start coming down a little bit heavier on this, because it's getting ridiculous.
I think guys like Varejao and JaVale McGee really made it a thing. Don't even get me started on JaVale McGee though.
Oh my gosh.
He's more of an actor than a basketball player.
Absolutely.
He's in it for the pure entertainment factor. Like I said, is what's wrong with the NBA nowadays.
Yeah.
That's why so many people would rather watch college basketball. Is you don't have little pansies flopping around on the court trying to. I mean, they don't even really care. You mentioned it before. Nobody cares until the postseason.
Right.
Especially if you're on a contending team. You don't care about it until once you reach the postseason. Then you don't see guys flopping around and acting like dickheads.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You don't. You just don't see that because they know it could hurt their team.
And you see the refs choke on the whistle,
It just further proves that none of them give a damn.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The other thing that pisses me off, too, is when games in the postseason are ref differently than a regular season. I get it to a degree, but come on. Could you imagine that in baseball? The strike zone was suddenly different, or, they moved the fences back 25 feet to make it harder or something like that? Like, come on.
Different how?
Well, it's a lot more physical, and the refs tend not to call quite as much.
Which is the way it should be in any way.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is there shouldn't be a difference. I don't care which way you call it, but call it and be consistent. You want to call it loose in the regular season, then you've got to call it loose in the playoffs. You want to call it super tight in the regular season, you got to call it tight in the playoffs. What you let go on in the regular season should be what you let go on in the playoffs. Could you imagine if they allowed what goes on in the playoffs in the regular season? The regular season might actually be watchable. Like, I don't care which way they do it.
That's why the NBA peaked in the 80s and 90s. Because, I mean, watching the old Pistons play, they used to beat the crap out of people. Yeah. And it was just fun as hell to watch.
Right.
And now we've just got a bunch of guys
flopping,
dancing. They're little ballerinas on the court. Feel like you have to take a freaking acting class in your one and done year of college in order to actually be a first round pick now. Is that like a prereq now?
Your college classes include dancing 101, acting skills 101, how to spend all your money in 7 days.
101.
Yeah. It's like, okay. Oh man, speaking of that, what do you think about potentially seeing that age go up from like 19 maybe to 20, or you have to play 2 years in college or something like that? Would you be in favor of that, or go the other direction? Or I don't know, it's just something that's kind of been in the background lately with the NBA and college players.
Yeah, I saw Silver kind of brought it up and mentioned that he would like to see it maybe go up to 20, which wouldn't be a problem. But I think baseball really has it made. The MLB requirement is you can either come fresh out of high school, or if you decide to go to college, then you have to stay for 3 years. I just think that's a great way to run it. I'm not personally a fan of NBA players coming out of high school per se, because it's very different. You got a guy that was just dominated against a bunch of kids that, had passing up scholarships so he can go pro.
Yeah.
Ends up flopping, and then he screwed up his life completely.
Right.
I just don't think the 17, 18-year-old kids are ready to make that decision.
Right. There's nowhere to go if you don't make it in the NBA.
I think a 20-year-old minimum age requirement would definitely be a great place to start.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least
you've got guys that can come out after their one and done year and just dominate. It doesn't happen very often, but I would like to see the percentage of guys that do that as opposed to the one and dones that are out of the league after 3 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think
overseas or just completely unemployed.
I'm trying to think of the last couple players who actually came in and made a huge impact early on.
Anthony Davis. Wiggins was, I mean,
Wiggins,
it's not like he
Towns.
dominated, but sure.
Was Towns a one and done? Yeah.
Towns was one and done.
Irving was a one and done, but he didn't really get going until year 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But he was a little bit different. He was coming off a knee surgery, so that was kind of odd in and of itself.
And that was kind of the same thing with Blake Griffen too,
right?
Because he tore his ACL in the preseason, didn't he?
Yeah.
What was supposed to be his first year, and then he sat out and won Rookie of the Year after that.
Yeah.
So I guess you could consider him in there.
Whatever happened to Blake Griffin's brother? Do you remember his brother?
Taylor Griffen?
They used to play
Taylor
together?
Griffen.
On Oklahoma?
He got drafted by the Suns that year. I don't think he ever... I mean, he's not on an NBA roster anymore. I'd imagine he's playing overseas, or he's probably not even in the D League at this point. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I mean, I loved watching them in college, though.
Oh my gosh,
you got
they
Blake.
Blake
was the big showy guy that everybody just loved. And Taylor, I just respected the hell out of Taylor. He was one of the hardest working guys on the court that you'd see. I mean, he was just a junkyard dog out there, and I just loved him. He was the one diving for loose balls and trying to save them going out of bounds, and he was just great. I love Taylor Griffen.
Yeah. Well, he's played a lot in the D League, and he signed in Belgium in 2010, then came back to the D League until 2015, and now he's in Italy. So... Well, he was as of
looks like he's unemployed now.
So he's probably unemployed now.
He is unemployed now. Well, I don't want to say unemployed. I'm not going to bash on the guy. I'm sure he's got some kind of job going because he stayed all 4 years, didn't he? Yeah, he was at Oklahoma for 4 years. He got his degree.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's doing something with his life, but.
And that's where I think 2 years is so critical because you can get a degree in 2 years. And
it's easier to go back if you're there 2 years. Too.
Right. Because you're not worried about... If you go 2 years,
don't get your degree, you can always go back as opposed to just the 1 year. And
absolutely. You
probably didn't do anything because you were a freshman in college and you were playing basketball and having fun.
Right. And if you at least have a degree, you're not worrying about transfer credits. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can sort of just come in with that degree, transfer that degree in, and then start on your next program. Whatever it might be.
I mean, they could even make that a new rule. You got to have at least an associate's degree in college to be in the NBA. I mean, it sounds a little silly, but it might be a way for guys to actually stick around in college. And that would make college basketball a lot more exciting, too. Can you imagine if a guy like Anthony Davis had decided to stay all 4 years?
Yeah,
that would have been crazy. That entire Kentucky team.
Yeah, but Davis, you also got to think though, it could change the landscape of college basketball because you're suddenly not, if you're a Kentucky or a Duke or one of these top teams, you're suddenly not out every single year trying to recruit in essentially a new team. I mean, can you imagine having to do that every single year because you're fielding these guys that are looking to be one and done? I mean, that would be draining. And
you got the small schools that'll jump on
they'll benefit now.
Yeah. I think they'll jump on the guys that would normally be a one and done, and that'd be really cool.
Could you imagine the tournament, NCAA tournament, when you've got now, guys who can play or who are potential NBA players across the whole bracket? Maybe not the whole bracket, but across, let's say 50 out of the 64 teams. I mean, that would be...
I think already as it is, the NCAA has the best postseason.
Oh, hands
college
down.
Basketball has the best postseason, hands down.
Hands down.
It doesn't matter if you even follow any kind of... It's just like the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you follow any teams there or if you follow college basketball. Right. You're going to watch March Madness.
Absolutely.
I mean, you just do. You follow it. Everybody fills out a bracket.
Yeah, even if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah.
Exactly. You're just writing down random crap, and then that's how you get into it. Brackets have really done a lot for college basketball and the March Madness. I mean, can you imagine if they didn't have the brackets? I mean,
That would be
nobody,
tough.
it would still be a big thing, but it would be more just for the college basketball, the true fans.
Right.
I mean, you can get grandma who's never watched a
Game in
college
her
basketball game in
life.
her life to fill out a bracket, and then she wants to see how she does, so she starts watching the games, and same for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that's very underrated and not really taken into account.
Yeah. But could you imagine if suddenly we were filling out that, the brackets and you had, NBA potential players across 50 of those out of the 64 teams?
It's already pretty unpredictable as it is.
Yeah, but
And
that would take it to a
if you
whole
throw in
crazy
those,
new level.
oh yeah,
That
that
would
would
be
just
nuts.
it would be crazy.
It would be crazy. But now it could also have another effect. It could potentially create sort of super teams like you have in the NBA where suddenly you've got top recruits as your starting lineup, and then you've got like mid to upper recruits that instead of going somewhere else, they fill out your bench, and your next five off the bench are better than most people's starting five. I mean, that could
If
potentially
they're
be a problem.
riding the bench, the upper recruits riding the bench, then I mean it'll still give them time to mature, and they'll work their way up and be starting junior, senior year and get their degree. And I mean
Yeah,
that would really help.
it would help, but while it does have the potential to spread the talent out, it could potentially clump it a little bit too, if players aren't constantly moving on. But yeah, I think we both sort of agree on this point that it would make college a little bit more interesting. Not that it isn't already, but it would sort of move that bar to the next step, make the tournament that much more interesting. While it would also really kind of prepare some of these kids, because the D League is slowly starting to develop, but I don't know what they get paid in the D League. It can't be enough to sustain you
No,
to play basketball.
It's like minors, like low minors in baseball. The guys that are making, $40,000-$50,000, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And obviously the upper end guys, the Vander Blues and the PJ Harrisons of the D League are making significantly more, but just for the guys that are kind of hanging on by a thread in the D League are probably not making anything really.
So I did a quick search, and there are 3 tiers according to this search. 13,000 is one, 19,000 is the second, and 25,000 is the third. Each team has a salary cap of $173,000. So
Are you serious?
Yeah.
God, wow. I mean, that's, I thought they'd be making a respectable amount.
No.
What did I say, 40? I mean, you got,
Yeah.
wow.
For double A ball, the monthly salary is about $1,700. So if you take that out over 12 months, that's roughly $20,000 if my math's correct.
Yeah.
And then for AAA, it goes up to about somewhere between 2,000 to 28,000. So it really can, but again, you're not making a ton, but you could potentially live on that.
Yeah.
Potentially live on that.
And they can't really, obviously there's the guys that do have part-time jobs, but they can't 100% focus on basketball if they're doing that.
Right.
But if they do 100% focus on basketball, then they can't make any side money, and they're living off of, not much.
Exactly. So that's why I think it's so important for some of these guys to go to school to at least get that 2-year degree. And I think at this point in time, you have to do that. Plus, it helps them grow up. I mean, you just read so many sad stories about guys coming into the NBA at 18 years old who didn't know how to manage money. They didn't know how to manage themselves. They weren't emotionally ready to take on the responsibilities. Suddenly they have bills. Suddenly they have money. And, not to be, not to take away from that, but a lot just about every kid has zero experience with money by the time they hit 18 with real money.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you get like a $2 million signing bonus dropped in your bank account. Could you imagine that?
They don't know what they're doing with it.
No. And that's the saddest and the
I mean,
hardest
you go
part.
out and buy a big house and
And a
nice
car
brand new car that you're going to end up having to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars just for insurance alone. You end up flaming out and you're still got to pay for it. And that's how you end up going bankrupt.
Absolutely. And so that's why I think 2 years in college where they're not enticed by money or anything like that would, enable
Not like
them.
they're not making money in college anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real now.
Yeah.
They're already getting some kind of financial benefit aside from scholarship.
Yeah. But at least it doesn't necessarily have the potential to derail their life in a giant magnitude.
Sure.
There's a learning curve with those funds. There's a learning curve where you can sort of like, okay, here's where we took it and this is a much smaller, more manageable amount. Now let's teach you how to manage that so that when it becomes, 20 times this in the NBA, you don't get freaked out and completely lose all sanity. So, there's that difference too. So, I don't know. It is what it is, but I wouldn't mind seeing them. I think NFL is 2 years, isn't it?
Minimum the NFL, you have to be 3 years removed from high school.
So
you can be a redshirt sophomore or a true junior. You have to be 3 years removed from high school.
So why is basketball so far behind on this?
Well, I mean, not NFL, but football and basketball are very different. I mean, you're not going to have an 18-year-old that's physically ready to be matching up with, those grown-ass men in the NFL. Basketball's a little bit more different because it's a very particular set of skills as opposed to all the intangible athletic ability that comes with football. Well, I mean, it's different, but at the same time, it's really not an excuse for them to be so far behind. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah. I think hopefully with Silver looking at this, it's something that maybe they'll think about increasing the age up to 20 like we talked about. I think it'd do a lot of good things for college basketball. It'd do a lot of good things for NBA basketball. And it'd do a lot of good for the kids coming up through college before they get into the pros, which is a whole new world. So it's
if anyone can get it done and get things changed, it's Adam Silver.
Yeah.
I mean, he's great.
Yeah.
He really is. He listens to what the fans want. He knows what's best. He doesn't really care what the owners have to say about it. I mean, that's been that's been tested apparent. A few times.
Yeah. Well, I wish he'd get rid of Flopin.
He's a fans kind of guy.
I wish he'd get rid of Flopin.
Sure.
Because I'm getting tired of it. I'm getting tired of it.
Just the weak foul calls in general, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just flopping. It's the fact they know that they can get away with it because of the weak foul calls that are going their way anyway. I feel like that's kind of where it stemmed from.
Yeah, that's true as well. So what about fourth official?
I did see a headline about that.
They've thrown it out there, but any thoughts on that? Or like, will that fix a problem?
Yes and no. It would obviously add another angle to it. But what my kind of idea was to have a fourth official that's kind of watching from the video monitor.
Yep, absolutely.
that can stop play a game when there's a foul or
an egregious
just be watching it
mistake.
Ready when there's a play being reviewed. They're just right there ready for it, and they're in charge of that, and they let them know what it is because they're just right there watching it from all the angles right then, and they can make the call.
Yep. Or
That's kind of my thought. But then it got me thinking about how people are worried about the MLB being such a or baseball just games going on too long, and that might maybe turn some people off. But
uh
as far as just the sport alone, I think it would definitely be a lot better that way.
I mean, but
Personally,
if I feel like if you're a ref and you're sitting on the sideline and that was your only job to correct either egregious calls that were clearly wrong.
it would completely change the game of basketball, though. It's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it
It would, it would,
it could, but like we're talking about baseball too, where like that was an issue where what if a ball is clearly foul and yet they call it fair, or the other way around? We didn't
yeah,
have the ability to fix that, and now we do.
sure,
And it hasn't
but
changed the game. Whereas, so what if there's something simple like it was clearly hit out of bounds by a certain team, and yet everybody on the court, the refs all call it a certain way when it clearly should be the other way? Why not fix that really quick?
sure, yeah, but I was thinking more along the lines of how basketball is just such a fast-paced game, especially in the NBA because they're not playing defense anyway. It's a bunch of fast breaks and running up and down the court. Do you want a guy that's going to be stopping play whenever something isn't called personally? There just has to be ground rules, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, there has to be ground
Because
rules. I'm
obviously it's
thinking,
my idea and I like the overall aspect of it, but there's just has it has to be implemented perfectly for it to go through
yeah.
as smooth as we want it to.
Well, I think you're looking just like baseball. You're not doing balls and strikes, so you're not doing fouls. You're not doing that kind of stuff. You're doing the ball was clearly out of bounds here, or when when there's a shot, when there's a foul called on a shot where they're looking at was it a two or a three. You've got a guy that's already sitting over there that just puts up two or three fingers. He's already seen it. Keep the game moving. I my gosh, that pisses me off every single time where they go over to the board, takes them 30 seconds, and everybody in the stands after the first replay has already seen that it was a two. I mean, both his feet were over the line or whatever the case may be. And it's like, come on, just keep the game moving. That's where I think that fourth official would actually help out a heck of a lot more, and where you could actually speed the game up and keep it moving if you had somebody there to quickly do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I guess that could be the defined role in my mind.
Yeah, that'd be a good place to start. I don't think it's going to help having another guy out there on the floor. It's not going to do a whole lot.
Yeah. But I mean, if you have somebody who's already looking at who's the ball out on, was it a two or a three? All those types of things, like it would speed the game up, definitely, and it would keep things interesting, a little bit more interesting than, oh gee, I wonder if that was a two or a three. Let's take a minute and find out when everybody knows what it was. It's just that kind of stuff that I think it would really help. So I like the fourth official. I think you could keep it pretty basic without changing the whole game. But again, that's their call.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. I'm agreeing with you for once.
For once.
For once, don't go write my name on your notebook or calling mom over this one. Don't get too excited. It's not gonna happen a lot.
It's not gonna stay, but that's all right.
No,
That's
I'll back you up this time.
Well, that
Only
is
because it was mainly my idea.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good take. It was your idea. I mean, that's kind of when I asked the question, I was sort of going to lean that way anyways. So I was kind of bummed you didn't say, yeah, I really like the fourth official on the floor. It would really help. No, it's not.
I ruined your plans.
You ruined all my points. Destroyed them.
Well,
Yep.
it's okay.
Well, that probably wraps us up for tonight. We thank you guys for listening to Batting Practice with Bragan and Panda. Tonight we covered a whole bunch of stuff with the NBA, highlighting Boston, Cleveland, college a little bit too, and just giving our overall takes. Don't forget to give us some feedback if you want to. Email at us at contact.battingpractice@gmail.com. You can also tweet at us, and that is at BP_batting practice, I believe.
I think it's _Bragan_Panda. You got to change that.
Wow.
Nobody knows how to spell my name anyway, damn it.
All right. So we will. That is, yeah, that needs to get changed.
We've also got an Instagram page at batting_practice podcast, all combined. So check us out there. Always got the up-to-date news going on. This week, we definitely ran things differently. We didn't have a bunch of different points to feed off of. We were just kind of winging it, letting it flow free, just letting it just see wherever it goes. So if you guys liked how it went this week, be sure to leave us a comment. We're always looking for feedback. Definitely go follow us on social media. Can't wait to hear from you, and look forward to doing this again next week.
I'm going to give one closing thought, and this was from yesterday. There was a post that said, Kevin Durrant suffered a serious injury and the Warriors lost. The Cavs signed Andrew Bogut. Today is 3-1, and hopefully you'll get the reference to that. If you don't, well, go look it up.
Well, today's not 3-1.
Well, this was from yesterday when they actually officially signed Andrew Bogut.
Okay.
So hopefully you get the reference, and
that doesn't take away from the fact that Globo Gym blew a 4-1 man lead in dodgeball. I think that's what we're really trying to target right now.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great rest of the evening, and we will see you next week.